Hi everybody, welcome back. So in the last lesson we left off with this map of World Bank country income categories, and so in this lesson we're going to take data from other databases, merge it in with our country shapes, and map those data. Okay, so we can go ahead and get started here. So we'll call this section using rnaturalnearth to map other data, and we can start a code chunk. Before we do that, let's write a little descriptive sentence here about what we're going to do. And we'll call it well, we're going to be mapping oil rents as a percentage of GDP, so we'll say oil rents. Okay, and so we'll go ahead and start with our object name, and we're going to use the WB Stats package to download some data on oil rents as a percentage of GDP. And basically this is a measure of natural resource wealth. So how much does a country's economy depend on oil? So we can do oil underscore rents GDP equals, and the code for this is NY GDP PETR, which must stand for petroleum, RT for rents, and ZS. Anybody have a guess what that stands for? I'm not sure. And we'll take the most recent non-missing value and close parentheses. Okay, and I'm missing a parentheses here. I should put this in the combine function. So that we can substitute. We need that in order to be able to substitute this name for the code here. Okay, so we'll go ahead and do that, and now that should work. And let's go ahead and run that, and then glimpse oil rents data frame. Okay. That, just make sure everything's running properly. Oh, and of course it can't find the function because we didn't load the library, so we need to load WB stats. There we go. And occasionally this is actually this is a common error. You may run into this if you haven't already. This basically says bad request. It usually just means that the request didn't go through, the API just sort of bonked out for some reason. So let's try it again. Okay, there we go. And these data look good, actually. Okay, so let's close that. Let's get rid of our glimpse call here. And now we are going to join this data frame with our world map data frame from earlier, right, which we were working with earlier. And remember when we ran, when we glimpsed these data, I've actually closed out of it now, but when we glimpsed these data, we said that the ISO code that we want to work with is the ISO underscore A3 underscore EH, because that's the one that's the most complete among all of the options. So we're going to use that and the ISO 3C codes from the World Bank data to merge the two data sets. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll call this rents underscore map underscore data frame. We'll do a left join, and we're going to start with the world map data frame, and we're going to join to that the oil rents data that we just downloaded. And we're going to do join by ISO underscore A3 underscore EH and equals ISO 3C it should be. Okay, so we don't necessarily need these parentheses here, but we could have them if we wanted to. I'm sorry, this should be A3, not A2. Yeah, so we have two different names for essentially the same code. So that's why we're doing the equal equal here. We could rename one of them, in which case we wouldn't have to do that, but it's easier just to go ahead and do it this way. Okay, one thing we can do is if we want to see these data, we can go ahead and take a look at the last 5 columns. And the way we would do that is we can use select, and then we can specify last underscore column 5, and that last underscore column function, if you just don't include any argument, it just means you want to select the last column in the data frame. But if any number you put in the parentheses is going to signify that many columns from the end of the data frame. So we'll say last underscore column 5 to last underscore column. All right, so we're going to select that and we're going to glimpse it. Okay, and there is our data. We have the date, oil rents as a percentage of GDP. We have these two variables, and then we have the geometry. If we wanted to, we could overwrite our current rents underscore map underscore data frame with just these 5 columns of data, or we could select oil rents, GDP, and geometry, and then we can glimpse that. And now we have a much smaller data frame, and this is actually sufficient for our purposes because all we need is geometry in the data. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and map. Now let's map these data. Okay. We're going to go ahead and add a code chunk. We can label it. Just call it oil rents map. And we're going to use ggplot for this. And geomsf. And our fill is going to be oil rents GDP. And our labels would be title, and next we will do our GG themes theme map. We'll add, and we can add some options for theme as well, actually. Theme map, close parentheses. And then we'll add some options for the theme. And we'll do, let's move the legend over to the right for this one. Let's do plot.title. We'll bold the font for the title. Okay. And then we'll add a Viridis color scheme. And this is going to be a continuous variable because oil rents as a percent of GDP is a continuous variable. It's not a discrete variable, so we'll change So we'll have continuous this time, underscore C. And then we'll choose option equals magma for the theme. And labels equals, and we're gonna use the scales package, label underscore percent, scale equals 1 here. Okay, so this calls scales, right? So we don't have to load it separately. And then we're saying that for our labels, for the basically for the legend, we want the scale to be in percentage terms, and this basically tells the scale equals 1, basically tells it leave it as it is, don't adjust it by multiplying it by 100 or something like that. All right, let's see if that works. Oh, I misspelled something up here. I put legend dot position. Let's try that again. Okay, and that looks pretty good, except I missed some parentheses on the title. Okay, there we go. And so this map tells us which countries are most oil dependent. Venezuela, countries in the MENA region, especially the Gulf states, and then Russia stand out because they export a lot of oil. Okay. All right, so that's that. That's how you make a map with other data after merging it with the natural Earth country shapes and simple features. And in the next lesson, we're going to do something that's a little bit more advanced. We're going to take this and we're going to turn it into a function that will allow you to use this code and just plug in, your own parameters, and then look at basically map different variables from the World Bank. That's in the next lesson. See you there.